Spooky Spokes. Sabrina complains about Ambrose because there's so much junk. She says she's taking care of all of his junk while he's away at a convention for some reason. She wants to get rid of a motorcycle, and it's so predictable that he wouldn't appreciate all of the junk in his attic being gotten rid of, because she says she can't wait to see his face. Jughead and Moose are amazed at seeing the bike, and Moose says that they don't make them like this anymore. How'd he know? So there is something he knows a lot about. That's more realistic than him always being dumb. Why is Sabrina letting them have the bike? It's from a warlock, so it's immediately obvious that it's gonna have magic in it. She wouldn't take this risk. She'd at least go after them and supervise them. Go figure, he tells her the motorcycle is magic, and it's been its prized possession for years. Then why did he keep it in the attic when he was fine with her getting rid of all the other stuff in there? It still works, right? Moose doesn't know which tool to hand Reggie. Told he wants a socket, so Moose punches a tool which hurts him. He wouldn't do that. This scene goes on for way too long, being repetitive. He tells Moose to hold the bike steady while he uses a tool on it. He hears a loud noise in front of his face and falls over. He's asked if he slipped and sarcastically says he just felt like falling. I like that line. He blames Moose again for the bike inexplicably being magical, and he gets splashed with oil. Why is Moose the bully putting up with Reggie being mad at him so much? I wish it was explained that the bike is bothering them because they aren't its owner. I guess that is the case. He gets splashed again as I'm wondering why Reggie is trusting Moose to help him at all. He knows he's an idiot. Reggie gets on the bike and it drives backwards through a wall. I really wish it was explained why it was bothering them. Because if it was always like this, it wouldn't be Ambrose's prized possession. He just hated it. The bike moves around and drives without Reggie with Moose on it. Then the bike turns around and lifts Reggie onto it. Surprisingly, we see the bikers from an earlier episode again. And they waste time talking about how they like bikes and see a motorcycle in the store window. They see the magic bike spin around and fly upside down along the power lines, making magic obvious. Weatherby is going to the eye doctor and witnesses the magic bike, and it starts plummeting towards the road. And Reggie's smart enough to let people take the bike off his hands after all of that. So he gets paid for the bike, and some bikers get spun around by it, and it goes into the junkyard. Reggie laughs in front of them, and the bikers want to hurt them, rather than freaking out asking how this is even possible. Reggie falls in a sewer hole. The bikers get frozen in time, and somehow he still falls in the sewers. Ambrose tells Sabrina that she did an excellent job, even though he doesn't see his motorcycle. Then it conveniently shows up on its own. I guess I'm supposed to assume that she didn't want people to freak out from seeing the magic bike warp away. And definitely didn't want anyone on the bike to discover she was a witch by being warped to her. The story ends with Reggie and Moose still at the junkyard. Why is Moose helping him out? This predictable episode was about Sabrina getting rid of the junk in Ambrose's attic, including a motorcycle that's of course magical. I wish it was explained that the reason it gave Reggie such a hard time was that it was fighting off intruders that stole it from Ambrose. Because it seems arbitrary, but it's such a logical assumption that I can forgive it not being explained. What I can't forgive is Sabrina not assuming the motorcycle of a warlock was magical right away. That was common sense. I did find it intriguing that I finally got to see Ambrose's house, even if it was just the attic, so it didn't give him any extra personality. We never see him ride a motorcycle. But him having a separate house from Zelda and Hilda explains why he's not with them all the time, and has to be specifically summoned to Sabrina for help. He's with the ants a lot more in the comic. You'd think with all the times that Reggie got suspicious of Sabrina because she's so obviously a witch, he'd accuse her of being a witch because she gave him a magic motorcycle from her cousin's attic. I have to assume that now he got the common sense to shut up about his accusations of her for once. Because, while he does have Moose as a witness, who knows what would happen to him if he let his suspicions out. Maybe he did tell her he knew she was related to a witch from that, and she erased his memory of it after the episode ended. You ought to be in the pictures. Sabrina explains that at her high school, her friends are trying to make their own film. Hilda's right, there's nothing more boring to watch than a bunch of amateur actors. And when Veronica's voice is so high, it's outright annoying. Archie's irritated at his friends as a director, and Sabrina recites some lines and impresses everyone. Somehow even Jughead gets hearts and floats. It makes sense that someone who keeps lying that she's not a witch would be a great actor. This is better than her being incompetent. Hilda says she can't be in any movie, even though it's just a high school film. Hilda and Zelda aren't explaining why she can't right away for some reason. Then Zelda shows her the family album. They show Sabrina some baby pictures of her, and she's invisible. And the witches aren't in the picnic photo either. Somehow I'm expected to believe witches don't show up in photographs, which Sabrina would have known a lot earlier. They would use magic so that the photos would show them. They would want to make the photos better. And because of that, Sabrina won't show up on film either. That's dumb. Zelda says she'll help her, and Sabrina kisses her face, and she says that whipping up a potion to make her visible on camera will take a while, so she's told to stall for time. This is such a forced plot hole. Like, if people can see her, then why doesn't she show up on film? A door falls on Reggie after time is wasted on padding. Sabrina stalls for time by using magic so that the light bulbs break, leaving them in the darkness. And then Reggie gets a dress, and Jughead's somehow able to see him in it in the dark. And an umbrella gets summoned to freak out Archie, and she summons a fan to make it spin. So Archie asks who's been messing with the trick props. Why does Sabrina have to be written to use magic evilly just because of this nonsensical plot hole? She finally says she can't stall anymore because it's not fair to the kids, so she decides to face the consequences of being caught on film. Just in time, Zelda shows up and sprays her with a potion. Moose asks where Sabrina is, and she keeps disappearing when on film, and Archie can't see her. Somehow the potion screwed up after all of Zelda's experience as a witch for hundreds of years. Hilda conveniently shows up and freezes everyone in time, and arbitrarily keeps Hot Dog conscious and actually frozen. Why was Hilda sent here and not Zelda? She says she can put an end to the vanishing, but Sabrina has to go back to her movie, and then they have to prepare to leave town. She summons a storm cloud to wash all the potion off, and Sabrina tells her friends she's gonna miss them all. The ants fly away on a broom, and Sabrina wants to take one last look at her friends. Why aren't they immediately realizing that they can just use magic to get rid of the film? Wouldn't there be a spell or potion so that people would be able to see her on film? Nobody can see the film at all because Moose left the cover on the lens. Why didn't anyone check? Moose gets chased by an entire angry mob. They sure are brave. I thought he was a feared bully. I guess he's only like that to Reggie. He says the whole world hates him as he's hiding up a tree, and then Sabrina kisses his cheek at night. And he just says maybe not instead of freaking out. I was interested in the idea that witches don't show up in photos. But it's so confusing because I never saw it before and it comes out of nowhere. It's just there to make a plot around it where Sabrina can't show up on film, and so she has to stall for time by abusing her magic like an evil witch while Zelda is making a potion to get around that problem. The potion screws up, just to have our time wasted with the depressing part of the plot where Sabrina's aunts think they have to leave town because Sabrina's going to be revealed as a witch. Or they could just, reverse time so that she wouldn't agree to star in the play. No, that makes sense. But it turns out Moose left the cap on the camera the whole time, something that somehow nobody discovered until it was too late. So she doesn't have to leave town after all. You'd think Hilda would have ruined the film herself instead. I guess she really loves Sabrina, but she'd clearly rather put up with her aunt destroying the film and not have to leave all of her friends. When Zelda was showing Sabrina her family photos, at first I assumed that there was a curse put on her by a witch a long time ago, that Sabrina herself wouldn't show up in photographs. But even that wouldn't make sense, because school photos are a thing, so she definitely would have known about this earlier. And witches definitely would have been discovered if this was the case for them. So no wonder I knew it was stupid. Even if this was the case for witches, they would have all had a powerful spell on them cast by a bunch of witches that would make it so that this isn't the case.